Так. Окей. Тест, тест, тест. Тест.
Man, there is such a delay here.
Тест.
Man, there is such a delay here.
Тест.
Man, there's such a delay here.
Тест.
Man, there's such a delay here.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me try to use headphones. Yeah, something strange. Is this better now, guys? Does it work now? Oh, yeah, because I was playing it and I was looking at myself, so I guess it was stuck in a loop. Okay, good. Okay, let me pour a cup of tea and let's start. Okay. Okay, green light, let's go. Let's start. So I'm waiting for the questions in the Telegram chat, right? Okay, waiting for the questions. Yeah, guys. So for us, my chairman Antonio, we're in Moscow right now and just doing the conferences, and Antonio is going to go on to Asia. And we have a very exciting deal with Japan coming. So the same Japanese syndicate that absolutely ravaged all our plans. Because I'm also a chairman of Neuromation, and they invested so much ETH into Neuromation that they completely screwed up our allocations or our expectations. So Antonio is going to go on to Tokyo on Monday, and on Tuesday he's meeting with the Japanese group, and they probably will do a very big commitment for Japan in the next few months. Then he'll also fly out to Korea and China, and basically we're in a road trip stage for EGT. What else? What else? We finally announced some of our advisors, and more would be coming. So this is Galaxy Labs and TAS Fund, and a few more would be coming. And Galaxy Labs is a kind of incubation consulting offshoot of Galaxy Fund. And Galaxy also will be moving and doing something with us. That would be, the amounts will be completely clear to us next week. So we have really good support. Also, things are heating up with our strategic investor trunk. As you know, they are very curious to find out what they can do, since they, they're not stupid. They can see what happens to public companies that go into a blockchain. So we're also negotiating with them. There is another property of theirs, New York Daily News, that is supposed to go up with engagement platform within the next month or so. So things are really not slowing down. More and more news coming every day. Yeah, should you sell your house to invest in my ICO? No, please don't sell your house. Please contribute responsibly. These are markets. These are crypto markets. So the last thing we want you to do is something that you can't, some moves that you can't reverse. So a partnership with Tronc is very simple. Tronc is our strategic investor, so they own about 10% of Solid Opinion. So Solid Opinion is the platform that is going to carry EGT to the wider world out there. And we are currently installed on all Tronc's properties. So these are all of their US newspapers, and there is not a dozen of them. Well, the largest are LA Times, Chicago Tribune, but then there is also San Diego Union Tribune. There is Baltimore Sun, and a bunch of others. And they also got this new property, New York Daily News, which is one of the larger newspapers in New York and nationally, and we're going to be going up there. Also, at the same time, we are trying to deepen our partnership with them. So where we will probably get an investment from them, additional one, and they also are party to so-called local advertising alliance in US, and that is alliance of all the large newspaper and magazine publishers in the United States. And our plan is to actually push engagement platforms through that local advertising alliance onto major outlets in the US media. And the idea is to use, the token sale proceeds to basically aggressively broaden our footprint with our engagement platform for Solid Opinion. Yeah, Forrester. Well, engagement platform is not industry specific, and it can work on any publisher, right? So wherever there is a social voice, then that later can go into an advertising unit, or a social voice in the discussion, or otherwise it can contribute and quote unquote generate EGTs, generate engagement. Their Solid Opinion would be effective. So it's most effective on properties where there is a combination of let's say some kind of authoritative didactic journalism and then community discussion, right? So it's neither quite in the pure forum territory, nor it is, just pure publishing one way. It's kind of, cooperative model that would work best. And I think some of the larger national properties in the US, for example, Washington Post does this really well. They have tons and tons of comments under every single article and lots of engagement with their material. So this is where we would excel. Where do we see our company in 5 years' time? What we are trying to really change the way that the whole ecosystem of publishers, users, and advertisers cinches together. Ideally, what we would see is our engagement platform being kind of like native advertising came in, about 5 years ago into the mix, being the integral part of the online publishing ecosystem. That is, I think there is a good third of all media that will benefit tremendously from engagement platform, and that's where we should be on all the national newspapers and all the national magazines. Again, where on this cusp, where the editorial content meets community. And our goal to really, in 5 years, well, we plan to triple or quadruple our reach for 2018, and hopefully. In 5 years, the platform would be ubiquitous all over the world. It would be a household name. Okay, I don't think this is related to AMA, Fort Knoxter. But I can go more into the 5-year plan, the vision. Yeah, we want to build multi-billion-dollar economy around engagement tokens, because part of the thing, and you can actually go to LA Times and see how people are contributing to the discussion, and quite a lot of them are generating quite a few points, right? And in about a month from now, when we fully transition technology to EGT, there would be generating EGTs, which then they would be able to transact on the blockchain, sell on exchanges, whatever. So that active 1 to 2% of the audience that creates content and creates most engagement would be significantly rewarded for their efforts. And that spills over into the advertisers, because that audience sends a signal of engagement to the advertisers, and advertisers know where they have to spend their EGTs and where they have to advertise, right? And the publisher, who is basically an arbiter of this, wins because they receive the advertiser money based on engagement where it matters. And this is where they differentiate themselves, from the point of view of the publisher, from advertising systems such as Google and Facebook, right? Because they sell their brands through engagement. What advantage does EGT have over Facebook comments and discuss? Well, Facebook is a walled garden, right? So if you're a publisher and you're installing Facebook comments, you basically have outsourced all your social to Facebook, and you're feeding the Facebook, right? You're not feeding your own community. Discuss, and Discuss is a fantastic system. It's mostly for long tail, and they completely eaten up a long tail, and they do extremely a good job of that if you just want a commenting platform. So they don't have their points due to the engagement tokens. They don't have the internal social currency that launches this economic engine that Soviet Opinion has, right? And also they don't have the native socially promoted units tied to engagement. And by units, I mean ad units. So they are very similar in terms of the core functionality of a discussion, and very different in the intent. So Discuss is just a very, very good discussion platform. And Solid Opinion is what we call an engagement platform that caters to advertisers and the users and the publishers, and the intent is quite different. Crypto in 5 years, future regulation. Well, my personal opinion is that first of all, crypto is going to crash horribly within the horizon of the next 5 years, and then after a horrible crash, whatever comes through to the other side is going to be quite robust. It's probably going to be that distributed ledger, universal payment system, and smart contract systems that we always wanted. And I'm actually quite bullish on Ethereum network. I think Ethereum network is going to pull through to the other side, because just in pure financial terms, the Ethereum network is a carrier for all the ICOs, and companies like Solid Opinion and EGT International are doing something like EGT, for instance, right? They connect Ethereum network to real economy. So people would actually, at least, advertisers, holding companies that buy advertising in bulk, if they would want to advertise in bulk on, let's say, LA Times, they have to buy tons of EGTs on exchanges. That means they would have to spend dollars on Ether and then spend Ether on EGTs. So there is this support level against complete crash in Ethereum economically. And although, we've seen with Benefit, there are a bunch of scams and pretty much, harebrained projects that absorb a bunch of Ethers that are not going anywhere. But for every 10 of those, there's one like EGT or a bunch of others, which actually, because they have connection to real economy, as they grow, those 5 to 10% of good companies and good economies would start to outshine the weight of all this wastage that went into bad ICOs. So that's why I think when the crash, which in my mind inevitably will come, will probably spare the Ethereum network, or is not going to hit it as hard because of all the influx of money from real economies in the ICOs. I also think that Bitcoin is probably going to stay with greatly diminished prices, but it's going to stay because it's just it's so ubiquitous already in it has such a huge base, and it's going to be completely regulated as far as ICOs. Already we see in the United States that it's almost impossible to have a pure utility token. I think EGT is probably one of the last pure utility tokens that could be legitimately defended in the United States as a utility token. And then it's going to be regulated in Europe, which probably going to lag 1 or 2 years. But I think soon all the ICOs would need to be properly securitized, papered and whatnot, because like the SEC, especially in the United States, will tighten up the regulation really fast. And they're already going after quite a few ICOs, and a lot of it is also happening behind the scenes, where just the SEC analyst will write a nice email to an ICO in the United States asking them questions, and after a few of those questions, they probably shut down because the questions basically are begging the answers that these guys are not doing it in the right way. Okay, I'm rambling, so let's. I'll wait for the next question. Yeah, so can you tell us about the headline as features? So how is it better for readers and publishers? Well, a couple of ad units in engagement platform, and one, I think the one that holds the most promise is promoted comment unit. So it's basically a comment, and it has the same editorial requirements as a comment, but it can also be an ad. So what happens, you can take a comment and spend EGTs to promote it up. And when it is promoted up, it basically hangs in the top 3 slots of all the comments right below the content. And you can see it actually in the late times. On the late times, it's still behind show me comment button, but Tron will lift it up. So that promoted comment unit is going to be right underneath the article. And by stats, about 50% of all people who read the article will go and read the comment. Will read the comments. So this makes that ad placement quite visible. And it's also social. It's part of it. It's kind of part of the discourse, part of the article itself. So by implication, also and statistically proven that ad unit behaves much better than a banner, because we all have developed a banner blindness over the 20 odd years that banners have been around. And because that unit performs much better for advertisers, and it's framed kind of in a social discourse. It's really good new way to advertise, because it kind of closes all the holes for every party, single party that is involved, right? It's good for the publisher because it generates outsized returns, and it's basically incremental revenue for them. It doesn't eat up into their banner revenue. It's good for advertisers because it performs really well, and it's good for the users because it's treated as a comment, so all the editorial guidelines apply. So it cannot be nuisance, it cannot be out of whack with its messaging. So, and there is also a unit called promoted headline. It's just a headline that sits on the top of a headline, a real article headline, and it's a glorified text link. But that glorified text link accepts EGTs and works kind of on a Dutch auction basis, which really benefits the publisher. So that's not as important. Okay, what's my experience in the advertising world? Yeah, I've been doing ad tech for a while. I built and sold several companies in online advertising. One of them was AdTube. It was one of the first video advertising networks in the world. I started that in 2007 and sold it in 2011, and then stayed on running the company for a couple more years. And after that, in 2014, I started Solid Opinion as the next project. You know, we are seeing the next iterations of that. Okay, so yeah, a lot of experience in online advertising world. Build various ad tech platforms, and been around the industry for a while, more than 10 years, definitely. No, not all the top comments will be advertisements. If advertisers choose to put a comment there, to put an ad into that spot, they can. Because don't forget that the users, the readers, are also generating EGTs. So these people have quite a lot of voice with their EGTs. So they can promote their comments up, and this is what's usually happening. And if they want to promote up at the expense of the advertiser, they totally can do that. So there's no clear cut between an ad and a comment in the top comment spot. And this is done intentionally so that the share of voice of collective community can counterweight the purchased quote unquote voice of the advertiser. Yeah, the benefit debacle. Yeah, it's just insanely horrible for everybody what happened, and we felt like if there was a responsible way, we somehow could have said this, So we decided to do that program because it really hits hard the whole industry, and it hits hard our efforts. So especially this scam was so elaborate, where as I understand, it wasn't covered only by sheer lack of community analyzing this. Yeah, do we fear? No, we don't fear it. We want these companies to throw big bucks because publishers need to make money, right? And our investor trunk, part of their issue is that they have to Google, Facebook, and other tech companies who are eating their profit margins for lunch. So with engagement platform, they get that capability back. They get the connection to their local advertisers that they actually had. These are some of the oldest U.S. newspapers. They had this connection for, maybe at least the late times, for 70, 80 years. They had connection with tens of thousands of local advertisers, and now they lost it. So through engagement platform, they'd be able to recapture that one-to-one relationship and let them throw big bucks to reach the top comment. but it's more egalitarian now because all the readers also have EGTs, and in case advertising gets too annoying or is just out of context or unwelcome, it will be drowned out by the community voice. Yeah, it has to be related because it's treated as a comment, right? So it has to be. So for example, if it is a discussion about, let's say, LA Dodgers, right, it's probably okay to give to advertise LA Dodger discounted tickets in the promoted comment, but I don't know, car insurance probably wouldn't do, right? Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it won't replace online advertising. What we want to do is just to add our way of seeing things to the mix, right? Because we think that publishing eventually a good deal of it would go to kind of this more of a social town hall type of a feeling where a newspaper would publish content and then there would be discussion, there would be social network around content, and the right place to advertise in this environment is our engagement platform-based social units, promoted comments, and promoted headlines. 1 second, guys. We'll be right back. Yeah, sorry guys, was in the hotel. Yeah, so we are going to work with the existing online advertising systems and augment what's happening, right? But ideally, we would like to see less banners on publisher websites and more socially enabled units. So our units also perform better statistically for the advertisers. So hopefully, it's going to rebalance toward us. Okay, do we have actual clients who will use a GT platform? Yeah, we do. We're actually building links right now with holding companies who are going to be doing our advertiser load for the EGT. So all this biz dev is happening underneath. Can you tell us about plans to get more clients, maybe displace some Disqus users? Well, we don't necessarily want to displace Disqus users. What we want to do is for some of the publishers to displace Disqus with our platform, and that's been already happening on some of the properties, and results are pretty good. So especially because Disqus is a great discussion platform, mostly for long tail. And what we want is to kind of go after our more natural targets, which are publishers in the online news subsection of the industry. So these are newspapers, magazines, more like our investor trunk. How far is the GT from reaching their soft cap? Well, we don't have a soft cap for starters, but we are about after the first 10 days, we're about 1/5, a little bit more than 1/5 all the way through toward our hard cap. So I think progress has been pretty good. Hi, because of all of us investors here, what do you think about how can it increase the value of the? I don't think Mihai, can you please clarify? I'm not sure how can it increase the value. It's a refrain to a previous. Well, for comments radars, there are tons of use cases, and the idea that I've been toying around, and I actually have a treatment for that, but we haven't yet added this to the white paper or anything. Not to because already our stuff is pretty complex, and I didn't want to make it more complex. But one of the ideas is start putting that crawler result index on a blockchain, and then assign virtual EGTs to all the people who are not yet on engagement platform proper. And then the real EGTs are assigned to people who are on the engagement platform, right? But so that if we put the result, the index of all of these interactions and comments from comments radar spider on the blockchain and make it public, then what you're going to have is a kind of library of online personalities, which are transparent yet anonymous, and you know all of their comments, and you know all of their stances, and you can do a detailed analysis on them, and you can engage them to basically interact on your behalf, and all kinds of interesting business models become possible with that. So it's a very intriguing proposition. And then what happens if, for example, some of these personalities surface through the platform that uses actual, they surface through the publishers that uses an engagement platform, then they would actually start generating real EGTs, and that's going to be really good for our coverage. So probably in the next months, we're going to add that treatment and include it into our white paper, the comments radar vision. Okay, do you have a net complaint plan for the so as different what sort of? Yeah, we plan to second half of February. We plan to start, your typical ICO advertising circus, but we got to be really careful about how we present this because of compliance, right? Because we are a pure utility token. There are certain ways that we can do these ads, and certain ways that we can't, right? So yeah, there's going to be an ad campaign is planned, but expected to be, way more muffled compared to some of the other things that are happening. Yeah, George, that's exactly right. But moreover, it's what I'm toying with an idea is have every single interaction tracked by comments radar generate EGTs, right? Either virtual or real, and then kind of like you have all of these tools that work on top of the Ether blockchain. Build those tool sets to work over our engagement blockchain, so that other people can join ecosystems and build applications on top. That's very interesting. Company has over 4 million users. How much profit your company has made? Well, we are a growing startup. We haven't made tons of money, but we've made some. Do you have plans to be listed on a stock exchange? Well, that's way too early. If you want to go public, well, our chairman probably can comment. Took a few companies public, but we really have to grow before that. So we have to implement all of our vision elements for engagement platform, and then hopefully one day. No. Token exchange, we can't comment on that. Yeah, so going IPO would require us to have quite substantial revenues, probably 100 million or more a year in revenues. Oh, engagement 1000 is just an index. It's an automatic index that our spider does. So it's just for the ease of use for people to find the properties right now in the world where the most engagement is happening. It's good for advertisers. It's good for PR companies. There's so many users who can benefit from that. 30 seconds, guys. Be right back. I'm gonna pour myself some more tea. Yeah. So to quickly rephrase, Tribune Publishing, well, Trunk, former Tribune Publishing, is our investor, and we are on all of their newspapers, plus some other smaller properties. Plus, there is a big gaming aggregator called Spill Games, and we run all of their social aspects. They have like 14 properties in 14 different countries. Uh, Let me just point you to a URL for Trunk so you can get the list from there. We are not in any major British or European paper websites, and we are going to go aggressively after them. In fact, we're going to go aggressively after the whole goddamn world. But we need to have presence in Europe, and we are going to really be working on this right close to the end of our token sale. So already in Q2, we have to go after these markets. Okay. Okay, yeah, we can't comment on the exchanges. We are going after the whole. Yeah, guys, it's been relentless for the past at least couple of weeks. So I only had a chance to rest for about a couple of days. So I'm just from hotel to hotel doing the road trip. It's just nuts. Could you tell us about your part in the Galaxy Digital? So TAS is there are our dear friends, and they've been helping us out with bunch of things, especially some of the post ICO strategizing in a couple of projects. So work with them really closely. They also contributed. Galaxy Digital is a development arm of Galaxy Investment Partners, and they chose our token sale to help develop it. I think with one other, they're very, very picky, obviously. So they're a dear partner and a friend, and I think they're going to propel us quite ways forward. Also, a lot of major gaming European websites using Solid Gaming via the gaming sites. Early adopters. Well, they had an issue where they're, they have to be in control of their own audience, right? Like most of the platforms, third-party platforms like Discus, they would eat up your users. So they would just take your user base and make it theirs. And for a lot of these guys who thrive on lead generation and pay to acquire their users, it's unacceptable. The thing is, a great idea needs more than that. You need money, need a team, need right contact. Would you say you have this in place? If yes, can you elaborate? Well, we have all three. I think we have money, and we're venture-backed company. Raised about $7 million of venture investment. The A team has been working on great technology for already, close to 4 years. So it's about 50 people strong, mostly developers, and the right contact. Well, with our investor Tronk and a bunch of other industry connections, I think we have all the right contacts to accomplish our goals. What is our major concern regarding acquiring new clients? Difficult for clients to switch from Discus. How do you make it easy? What are the major concerns regarding acquiring new clients? Well, publishers are pretty picky, and if you get a great publisher, it's like with any sales, right? If things are going really well for the guy, you got to really put a cherry on top to try to convince them to switch or even to do something new, because costs of switching are monstrous, and even costs of trying new things is a loss of focus. So there is an opportunity cost to them, and our major concern is that some of our new clients might be sluggish. They do not realize the dangers they're in from Googles and Facebooks of the world. Because if you look at stats in the last 2 years, 90% of all growth in online ad spending went to two players. They went to Google and Facebook. That means they're growing at the expense of everybody else. That means that publishers are being excluded from that pie of growing money. And furthermore, Facebook and Google already started taking the content away from publishers through these instant caching pages and other mechanisms. So I guess our major concern is, are they going to be too complacent in realizing that they need to change and try new things? Is it difficult for clients to switch from Discus? How do you make it easy? Well, it's not difficult. There are several ways you can switch from Discus. The obvious one is to just leave the old comments be, and then import, just put in a solid opinion engagement platform on all the new comments. And then this is just, a couple of lines of finagled JavaScript, and off you go. Will your smart contract be audited? Yeah, I mean, we are going to use already existing smart contract codes that has been heavily audited. And then we're also going to do another line of audit just to be sure. I think Safe is going to be doing our auditing. Many smart people asking right questions. Yay. What times the pledge is closed exactly? Be home in 2 hours. Yeah, I think it's going to close. The syndicate is going to schedule to close in about, it's at noon GMT, right? So in about 45 minutes. Yeah, in less than 2 hours. Yeah. All right, I'm in Moscow, so I'm in 3 hours. Yeah, in about an hour and a half, we'll close. But what will happen is the dashboard will close for new signups, and the transaction processing is probably going to be live still for a few more hours after that, right? So if you come back home in 2 hours and runs the transaction and repeats the transaction, right? Very likely it will get in, and then it would stop processing transactions probably around 3 or 4 p.m. GMT. Gee, pizza. Yeah, let's figure out the technical issues because this is not supposed to be happening. There got to be some issues that we need to work out. But it's not ubiquitous. I mean, it's not happening a lot. Okay, so this might be because we are using the same dashboard as Neuromation. So this might be an issue with his setup. Crap. Maybe try to use different browser. But we can parse it out in due time. Okay. Can you get more abstract now and tell us what the idea behind tokenizing engagement? Yeah, so the idea is, on one hand, it's pretty simple. So let's say that you are reading a newspaper like Los Angeles Times, which feeds content to you. And then you start engaging with this content. And that just very simple. You leave comments, you read comments, you vote up the opinions, you vote them down, you participate in the discussion. And that is an engagement. That is really hard to fake. It's hard to falsify something like this. So if we start expressing that engagement in quantitative terms, and then assigning some unit to it, let's say our point, right? Then it becomes something concrete. But it's still neutered quite a bit because it's just an entry in our database. It's not transactable on the global market, right? I mean, the points are one thing for one publisher, another thing for another publisher. So they're not standardized, they're not uniform, and there's really, nothing specific person, individual who is generating that engagement can do with that, except for bragging rights and certain vanity value. Now, if we tokenize them, we put them on a blockchain, and then they become transactable in the global market, that becomes a currency that suddenly somebody like an advertiser can use and let's say purchase ad units on the same engagement signals that you have generated. So now ecosystem starts developing and things get way more serious and way more interesting. The whole engine starts. And again, these then engagement tokens, their volume signal to advertisers that this particular content is an interesting thing that they should be focusing on and buying. And it's also a signal for publishers to get more content like that, to incentivize some of their more active users who are contributing to the content and whatnot. Just the business model grows out of the tokenization. What's my connection involved with Neuromation? Yeah, I am one of the early investors into Neuromation, and I'm a chairman, and I helped the project quite a bit, and very happy with the unexpected success of its token sale. So I hope to do the same great things for the project that I run directly, which is Solid Opinion, and in Egt International. What does that role entail? Well, chairman is the person who basically, chairs the board, right? I set their agenda. I preside over the board meetings. I help with early development as an early investor and a significant shareholder, right? I help them find the teams and all kinds of things that people do when they help incubate a startup. To work more on your white paper. First time I read it, there were a few crucial information, competitor analysis, revenue projections, felt like a draft to put a lot of people off. Well, in our view, tokenization of economy is not equivalent to seeking investment, right? So, a white paper is not an investment deck. Where we're doing revenue projections and competitor analysis and whatnot. But participating in GTs, you are not de facto being an investor. You're contributing to the ecosystem and helping build the engagement universe. So it's on this mix between community participant and an investor. So a lot of things that would be relevant in an investment memoranda for security are not relevant in our white paper. Okay. Are you in any of them? No, no major British or European websites yet, but we will be. Proper. Yeah, are you talking? We can't promise direct profits as in security, right? So you'd expect, well, if you buy security, then the company where you're buying security from, because it's an investment, is going to promise all kinds of things, right? We cannot promise those things. We can promise different things. So we have to be really careful about how we market. So as I said, we are going to do the best we can, but the proper marketing in this case is not going to be as loud or as bombastic as some of the other token sales due to regulations, because we have to be compliant, guys. Remember, we're on this together and need to stay on the right side of the law. Yeah, exactly. We'd love to, and I have very definite ideas. And trust me, all of our calculations, as far as our hard cap and all the efforts that we're trying to do, are they're based on real business projections. But as far as promising anything and then going into more details, that's not the realm of utility token. So that's also one of the reasons why a white paper, it doesn't read like classical investment memoranda, which some people expect. Uh, you know what? I don't. I skipped over both of these guys. I mean, skimmed over their presentations, and I'm sure they're great concepts. But I'm not much into reading the ticker. Right? You got to be aware of what competitors do, but definitely not be too swayed by them, because we are really good at what we do and we have to focus on that. Do I think that it's an overkill in advertising ACOs? Well, I mean, it's a $15 billion industry or more. If you look at it worldwide, it's just, in US, it's $15 billion. It's staggering. So if you throw a few projects that are trying to tackle that issue using the blockchain concepts, I think it's drop in the bucket. It's not enough, if anything. So if you're in both projects, right, hopefully one of them does well, and then the next, or however, what do you guys call it, to the moon? Yeah, advertising industry is really complex topic. I mean, I've been, one of the insiders for more than 10 years, and there are so many things that are wrong with an industry, wrong and right at the same time. And what I see is that things are going to go basically back to the basics, because before advertisement was kind of, it was simpler in concept. You would buy a paper ad, um, place it, and then you knew the circulation numbers for the paper. You knew who read it. You concerned return on your investment, and there were not a lot of options. But things kind of worked, right? And right now, there's bewildering number of options, many complex layers of the technology, variety of algorithms being chaperoned by all kinds of players, both honest and dishonest. And it's really difficult, at least in the online space, to find out what works. The so-called attribution problem, right? Because if you're, let's say, a marketer and you're marketing a product online, you give it to a bunch of vendors, your ad is going to travel the length and breadth of the internet and be shown to millions of people through dozens and dozens of advertising systems. And then the question is, who, in fact, deserves the credit for a sale or an impact that you did? And suddenly you find out that it's statistically, even at basic levels, that the problem is statistically intractable. Therefore, people kind of go for simplicity, and they start advertising with Google and Facebook, because these guys make it more transparent and tractable. In fact, they have their little walled gardens, and it's more like buying an ad in a traditional newspaper, because you know pretty much where it's going to go and who is responsible and what is an effect, what is the effect that you can calculate, right? So I think the advertising industry is going to collapse to those basics, and in fact, we hope that engagement platform is that straightforward uh, one-to-one signaling avenue that could be one of the alternatives to what is happening now, which is total bewildered confusion on behalf of advertisers and despair at figuring things out. Yeah, guys, thank you for sitting through this. And I'm going to be available in the syndicate Telegram chat for a while. Just PM me if you have more questions. Be happy to type them up. They go around my day. And huge thanks for your contribution. I mean, we are off to the good start with your help, and we are very confident we're gonna close our cap and have a great project. Thank you so much.